that safe, white-collar job, the one paying the mortgage. Just recently, Atlassian cut 500 of them right here in Australia. Then, Sydney-based WiseTech Global announced it would cut 2,000 on staff, with its CEO declaring, and I quote, "The era of manually writing code as a core act of engineering is over." This isn't a distant forecast from Silicon Valley. This is happening now, in our own backyard. And these aren't just any jobs. These are the high-paying, professional roles we were told were secure. So forget the media noise. I'm not here to give you more panic. I'm here to lay out the unvarnished data on why this is happening and give you the exact framework you need to build to protect your financial future. But first, you have to understand the one thing everyone is missing. The real reason why these supposedly secure, six-figure jobs were actually the first to fall. It's not what you think, and knowing it is the key to making sure you aren't next. The reason is simple, and it's not what you think. AI learned how to do the core tasks of your job: reading, writing, and analyzing information. For a generation, we believed the machines were coming for the manual jobs. The opposite is happening. Let me be blunt. It is not the tradie with the tools who was first on the chopping block. It is the analyst, the coder, the junior lawyer, the admin worker. This isn't a small shift. A Goldman Sachs report predicts generative AI could replace the equivalent of 300 million full-time jobs globally. And if you're wondering who, specifically, a report from AI firm Anthropic gives us the list. Office and admin, business and finance, and computer and mathematical roles. That is the engine room of the Australian middle class, and it is not a future problem. Australia's own Commonwealth Bank is already cutting traditional tech and admin roles while actively building an AI-ready workforce. They are preparing. The real question is, are you? Now, most people stop there. They think the fight is just about AI. It's not. That tidal wave of disruption is colliding with a uniquely Australian economic crisis, creating a perfect storm for wage earners. And that second threat is the one nobody's talking about. And that threat comes in three distinct layers. The first is a national crisis that's already here. Our productivity has completely collapsed. This isn't my opinion. This isn't a headline you can ignore. On March 19th, Treasurer Jim Chalmers himself stood in front of the country's top business economists and admitted it. He confirmed Treasury now expects Australia's productivity recovery to take 5 years, not 2. He used the words lost decade when talking about our future living standards. A lost decade. Layered on top of that, we have our own central bank actively working to slow things down. In its own February 2026 monetary policy statement, the Reserve Bank confirmed this bleak outlook. They've slashed their productivity growth assumption to a miserable 0.7%, and they are forecasting that unemployment will rise to 4.6% by 2027 because they are keeping interest rates high to deliberately hit the brakes on the economy. Then there's the third layer, the one every business owner, including your boss, is thinking about but will never say to your face. Let me just be honest with you, because I am one of them. As an Australian business owner, I can hire highly skilled workers offshore for just 10 to 15% of the cost of a local employee. This isn't a theoretical threat. It's a spreadsheet calculation. It is a simple business decision that thousands of companies are making right now, just to survive. So you have a national productivity freefall, a central bank actively trying to increase unemployment, and a global marketplace that makes your job 10 times more expensive than the competition. And your first thought is probably that the biggest danger is your job being eliminated entirely. But that's not the real threat. The true danger, the one that is set to silently erode your wealth and opportunities for the next decade, is something else. It's far more subtle, and almost everyone is missing it. That subtle danger isn't about losing your job tomorrow. It's about being left behind. Now, before you think this is just more doom and gloom, let's get two things straight. First, not every layoff you read about is AI's fault. Let me be blunt. Many companies are engaging in what's called AI washing. They're blaming technology for layoffs that are really just the result of their own poor management or bloating. It just sounds better to investors to say you're restructuring for an AI future than to admit you messed up. Second, this is not a Hollywood movie where the world changes overnight. This is a slow, gradual transition that will play out over the next 5 to 10 years. That isn't a long time, but it's enough time to act if you start now. So here is the real threat I need you to understand. It's not the total extinction of jobs. The true danger is that the gap between the small group of people who adapt to this new reality And the vast majority who ignore the signs is about to become a chasm. The people who adapt will move ahead very, very fast. The people who don't will fall behind just as fast. The question is no longer if this change is happening, but which side of that gap you're going to be on. So I want you to think about it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how prepared do you feel right now? And what's the number one thing holding you back? Let's talk about it in the comments, because to not just survive this, but to actually come out ahead, you have to stop playing by the old rules. There's one investor, controversial, for sure, but undeniably successful, who figured this out decades ago. He lives by a completely different set of financial rules. Understanding those rules is the first step to building your own financial citadel. In the next part, I'm going to lay his core principles out for you. That investor is Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and his core rule is the foundation of your financial citadel. It's a 3-pillar strategy I call the Financial Citadel framework. This isn't about panic. It's a blueprint for building a fortress around your finances in this new economy. And let's build it. Pillar 1 is about making you indispensable. Adapt your skills. Learning to leverage AI is no longer optional. A 2025 PwC global report shows the wage premium for workers with AI skills has doubled in just the last year. And a McKinsey study found that employees who master AI can take on the work of 2 to 3 other people. You don't get replaced by AI, you get replaced by someone who uses AI better than you do. Your action this week: spend 1 hour on a free AI tool like ChatGPT. Just ask it to help you write an email or summarize a long article. Get a feel for the leverage. Now for the second layer of your fortress. Pillar 2 is about ending your dependency. Diversify your income. Kiyosaki's logic is brutal and perfect for today. AI cannot fire me because I do not have a job. He understood that relying on a single salary is now the single biggest financial risk you can take. This isn't some billionaire fantasy. A 2025 Westpac survey found that 27% of Australians already have a side hustle, earning an average of $736 extra per month. That's over $8,800 a year in extra security. Your action here? Tonight, just list 3 skills you have that someone would pay for outside your job. That's it. Just the list. These first 2 pillars, adapting your skills and diversifying your income, are essential. They put you back in the driver's seat. But alone, they are incomplete. They build earning power, but they don't build lasting wealth. They are vulnerable without the third and final pillar, the one that anchors everything and protects you from inflation and market shocks for the long term. That anchor, the third and final pillar of your financial citadel, is to own real assets. Let me be very clear about what this means. When the world gets noisy and confusing with digital assets and complex financial products, you go back to what people will always need. People will always need a place to live. The data backs this up. An IMF report shows Australian home prices rose 7.4% in 2025, and the RBA consistently confirms that property remains the core of Australian household wealth. But this is exactly where the trap is laid for people like us. Do not just rush out and get another mortgage. That's the wrong way. The wrong way is getting excited by headlines, leveraging up to buy an investment property, and doubling your personal risk. Roy Morgan research shows over 1.18 million Australian households are already in mortgage stress. A single rate hike could push another 41,000 into that category. That is not a fortress. That's a house of cards. The right way, the Citadel way, is to use the new income you're generating from Pillar 2 to aggressively pay down the mortgage on your own family home first. Fortify your base. This builds your equity, it demolishes your risk, and it strengthens the walls of your own fortress before you even think about expanding. Because securing your own home isn't just about financial security for the next 5 years. It's the foundation. And once that foundation is unshakable, the real question becomes, what are you building it for? You're building it for them, for the next generation. Let me lay out how this all locks together. The Financial Citadel framework isn't 3 separate ideas, it's one integrated defensive system. The new AI skills you learn fuel your diversified income. That extra income gives you the power to accelerate paying down your home loan, turning your biggest liability into a true asset. Each pillar reinforces the others, and this is where personal strategy becomes family legacy. Australia is on the cusp of a $5.4 trillion intergenerational wealth transfer over the next 20 years. Now, what does that actually mean? Research from the University of New South Wales is crystal clear. Receiving an inheritance increases a person's chances of buying their first home by 85%. It gets even more direct. Long-term analysis using Hilda data confirms that receiving a financial gift from parents of just $5,000 or more doubles a young person's chances of becoming a homeowner. The financial citadel you build today is their down payment tomorrow. So I want you to imagine this. It's 15 years from now. Your child is looking for their first home in a market even tougher than today's. Because you started building your fortress now, you're not just giving them advice from the sidelines. You're handing them the deposit that changes their life. You're giving them a head start in a world that is becoming fundamentally more unequal. And that's the ultimate point of all this data, all of these trends. This is not a signal to panic. It is a signal to wake up and be conscious about it. The economic storm is here, but you are not helpless. You now have the blueprint for your fortress. The only question left is whether you will start building. If this framework gave you the clarity you've been looking for, subscribe. I'll be sharing more data-driven strategies to protect what matters most.